Chapter 21 Street of Light. Magus found his first sick native. The man lay unmoving, sprawled out within a small structure near mechanical pumps attached to underground tanks of refined liquid mixtures of hydrocarbons. Fuel, Magus surmised. Most of the vehicles he had found had the liquid inside them. The man must be a purveyor of fuel. When Magus entered, the man was gasping for air and unable to rise. The hive growth was active and growing on him. If the hive particles were growing as fast as though the hive were still alive, then it was being guided to do so. His worst fears were realized. The Alpha Guardian had enough control that she was causing it to propagate. How wide had it spread? He needed his own machines. There was so much to build, and he was still so weak. But this poor creature was suffering, and he couldn't leave it. Mimicking the sounds the human would understand would be child's play, but it was not efficient communication. Perhaps the man's auditory senses were compromised. The basic language the natives used occupied such a small part of their brain. This could be manipulated. He had become quite adept at communicating with the other minders using the same technique, allowing them to share ideas in any weather or even in a vacuum. "You're sick." Magus waited for acknowledgement, but none came. Then the man's eyes went wide as he looked up at Magus. "Follow, and I will help you." But the man didn't rise. Perhaps he couldn't. Perhaps he was unwilling. Magus wouldn't force him. If Magus had been given the option to be saved after witnessing the deaths of the rest of his race, he would have refused. To force this man to do anything was unconscionable. Magus continued his exploration while he monitored the man from a distance. The man expired. That had been his choice. The headache began as soon as I closed the door to the family therapy office. Maybe it had been there before, but now it asserted itself enough that I winced. It was right behind my right eyeball and felt as if something were trying to get out. I heard Mindy crying softly. She lay with her head on Bethany's lap. "What's wrong?" I asked. "She has a migraine," Bethany said. I crouched down next to her. "Mindy, do you get them normally? I can get you some Tylenol or something. They have a pharmacy." Mindy had her eyes squeezed shut. "We should go," she whispered. "Mindy, we're safe here. We left all the bad people behind. We need to rest." "It's wrong here. She'll protect us. We just have to go to her." I looked at Bethany. "How long has she been like this?" "About 20 minutes. I pressed in on my eye as if to relieve the pressure. It only made everything hurt worse. "Do you feel it?" I asked Bethany. "Yeah," she said. "I'll get us something." I confirmed the keys were still in my pocket, and I went out to the pharmacy. I had to hold each box up to read the label. I finally found a bottle of generic acetaminophen. While browsing, I also snagged a 4-pack of a chocolate weight loss shake. The metal curtain to the back taunted me. How hard would it be to break that down, given there was no one around to stop me? The building had to have tools, and I held the keys. "Oh, grow up," I said to myself. In the lobby, Grant was leaning by the broken doorway and looking outside. I could see blue light reflecting off his face and glistening through the glass. At first, I thought the light was coming from the sky, but as I got closer, I could see it shining from behind some of the closest buildings. It was like someone had set up a spotlight. "Did a helicopter land down there?" "I don't know." The throbbing in my head felt worse. I heard Grant's sister crying. "You should check on her," I said. "I'll stay here." He nodded and left me. I opened a bottle of the weight loss shake and took a sip. It wasn't anywhere close to hot cocoa in flavor and definitely didn't qualify as food. Blech. I took another swallow as if my memory of the first taste wasn't to be trusted. Just nasty. I took a couple of pain relievers even though I knew it wouldn't help with my head. There was something about the light that made it hard to look at. It wasn't that it was bright, but it somehow repulsed me. I wanted nothing more than to retreat into the darkness. "Leave now," she said. "Come to me." So this was what Mindy was babbling about. I put the bottle of pills in my jacket pocket and started going back to the office where Mindy and Bethany were resting. I would lead us out of there. We could get back on the street. There would be another place to rest far away from the light. Just the thought of getting away from it relieved some of the pressure in my head. No. With my good hand, I grabbed the handle of one of the front doors. The pain reasserted itself. No, I repeated. I'm not coming to you. Grant's sister, Paige, had stopped crying. I didn't hear anything, not even the voices. I should have told Grant I was going to go outside, but I was afraid that the moment I went back into the dark, I would lose my resolve and never get it back. I let go of the door and exited the building. The light burned. I winced as my head pounded. There was no one on the street. With what Grant had told me, I thought there might be mobs hunting infected people. But it was as if I were alone in the world as I walked towards the flickering brilliance. Once I rounded the corner of a bank a block down, I saw the light in full. It was blinding, and I had to shield my eyes. I could hear the goddess's voice, but it was indistinct and distant. She wasn't happy with me. The pain didn't let up. It was hard to see, but all of my senses were alive and telling me not to go forward. Each step was an effort. It was like a live wire ran along the street, and a new sun was being born at the far end. My foot touched something that twitched. It was a bat thing. It writhed about like a worm lying in the hot sun with no place to go. It felt the same pain I did. As I moved along, I saw more of them. Dozens. All of them were dying. Although I felt no heat, I knew at that point to get closer meant my flesh would sear and my hair would ignite. More of me would burn away than I was prepared to lose. This was the bright blue light we had seen falling, or at least part of it. I couldn't get closer, but I didn't want to turn away. Something in the light moved. It was tall, a swirl of motion, someone stepping in front of a spotlight. The burn-in on my retina wouldn't allow me to see anything else. I clamped my eyes shut. A new sensation filled me. It was like a vibration rising from my guts, an odd warmth that was comforting, but also made the pain so much worse. I nudged a bat away from me that had climbed onto my foot. I felt faint. At that moment, falling to the street would have been the easiest thing. I could twitch and die along with the bats and retreat into nothing. Somehow, through it all, I could hear Mindy. It was like for one brief moment we were connected, and she was feeling what I felt. My being here was hurting her. I turned and ran. Once I rounded the corner of the bank, I collapsed and coughed and puked what little I had in my stomach. Even with the light out of direct sight, it was too close, but at least I could see. It took me a moment to regain my strength. I managed to stand. I walked unsteadily back to the medical building. "Mindy?" I called as I entered. Grant hadn't returned to his sentry duty. I didn't care. I went back to the family counseling office. I was seeing lingering after images of the light. I had a hard time with the keys. Finally, one of them worked, and I pushed the door open. Mindy and Bethany were gone. "Mindy?" I called. "Beth!" My voice echoed through the lobby of the medical building. I went down to the pharmacy and checked the restrooms. The door to Grant's room was closed. I started knocking until he opened it. "My friends have left," I said. "Did you see them?" "No. Keep it down and we can look. Let me have the keys." I gave them back and waited impatiently while he told his sister he would be right back and to stay put. We walked the length of the building. All the other exits were closed, but any of them could have been used by someone leaving. "Maybe they had to go out for something," Grant said. "The best thing would be to wait here until they return." "We tried that before. It didn't work." "What do you mean?" I didn't want to waste time with an explanation. I exited through the broken front door and looked up and down the street. The dumpster fire was out, but the bright blue light still burned. It reflected through the high windows of the bank and sent its brilliance to the street and buildings near me. I wanted nothing more than to run the opposite direction. That was where they went, the direction the goddess wanted them to go. Grant stood at the door but remained inside. The light played off his face as he watched me. I gave him a nod and started down the street. Inmate. Shut up. Inmate. Stop. Inmate, come to us. Leave me alone! Come to me. There's room inside. Or go to her. We'll be together either way. I am the way. She is the truth. We're both the light. I didn't think hitting my hand on the asphalt would do it anymore. There was no silencing the voice. It filled my head and buzzed in my ears. I would see his face if I closed my eyes. It would be there in my dreams if I ever dared sleep again. I realized I was on autopilot. At some point I had stopped paying attention and had just started walking. It was like going to school. My mom had never driven me. Even though it had been almost 2 miles away, I didn't mind. Every time she showed up, it turned into an embarrassing situation. She would always say something. If any of my friends even saw her, it would send me into a rage. So I had walked every morning, usually up and out the door before she had even stirred from bed. 1 foot in front of the other, and you're there without remembering the particulars of the journey. But now I wasn't going to school. I had thought maybe I was heading home, but I knew where I was and that wasn't the case. I found myself at the mall. I passed between rows of parked cars near the cinema entrance. The food court was near this side too. It had never been the same since they closed the cheesesteak place. Mindy and Bethany could have gone anywhere, in 100 different directions, but the voice of the goddess was pulling me here. This was where they would be. Sad, really. Visitor from another world comes to town and they take her shopping. Someone had parked an RV across several parking spaces. The side door was open. I walked past and saw someone slumped on the steering wheel. Bumps covered his face and one of his hands, and it also appeared to have melted his features to the dashboard. I got closer to the side window, and then I noticed his eyes were open and looking at me. I jerked back. His eyes followed. My arm was oddly itchy. It felt like it had a cast on it. I had the odd sensation it was urging me to go into the RV and touch the man, to bring him closer. He would be mine. The goddess wanted me to. It was a gnawing hunger that tugged at me, and part of me didn't want to resist, and there was more to be had inside the mall. My stomach turned just thinking about it. Was this what it was like to go crazy? The glow of electric battery-powered lamps inside lit the glass of the mall's doors. It reminded me of the entrance to a cave in some fantasy world. Therein lay Shelob and Gollum, and they might be having an orange Julius together while munching on Subway sandwiches. I opened one of the doors. The dull light the lamps threw off shined on the polished wood-finish tiles, and the lobby card for an upcoming holiday animated feature with talking cats. Over by the snack stand, I saw a dozen people sitting around a few cafe-style tables. Others were lying out on the carpeted walkways, having laid out blankets and sleeping bags. More than a few backpacks lay on the ground near the campers. "Are you alone?" someone from the shadows asked. From behind a large planter came a young boy about my age with a rifle slung over his shoulder. It looked like the weapon I had used to shoot up the neighborhood by the golf course. "Yeah, I'm alone," I said. "I was trying to find some of my friends. I was wondering if they were here." He shined a light in my face. I hid my hand, but I had some bumps on my cheeks that couldn't be quickly covered up. "I'm not sick," I said. He clicked off the light. Just past him were a collection of packs, purses, and some other belongings. Was he robbing people or charging admission to get in? I thought he said something. "What?" I asked, but he didn't repeat himself. I turned the words and syllables over in my head, feeling dizzy. The less I thought about it, the clearer the words became. "Join us," he had said, but he hadn't spoken out loud. "There were 2 girls my age," I said. One tall, kinda muscular. The second one looks like she needs a sandwich. He stepped aside and nodded towards the group of waiting people.
Go on in.
He gave a small laugh. I got close and pushed him. What's the matter with you? I said. Are you sick? You have something inside you too? You think that makes us special? Or that we have something they don't have? His lips quivered like he was about to cry. He actually raised his hand to keep me from hitting him.
Hey!
A man was marching towards me, having risen from a table where a woman and 2 children were seated.
Settle down. What's the matter with you?
I looked him over. He was a big guy. He had a sidearm on his hip. He looked clean of the sickness. It was like I could smell the lack of it. Her touch wasn't on him. The difference between the sentry and him was night and day. One was alive and the other dead. The feeling of her was all around me. A lapse in my concentration and I would plunge into her, like diving into a pool of ice water. The burning along my arm and the throbbing pain in my head would be gone. Just like that. The big guy in front of me was like candy in my mouth. All I had to do was bite down. She wanted him. She wanted all of them sitting there, waiting with their eyes wide. But not like she wanted me. If she took them, they would be gone. I was special. You want to see what's wrong with me? I pulled the jacket off. It took a couple of tugs. My right arm was huge, larger than I had realized, like a crusty mutant pineapple made of pulsing skin. The growth went past the elbow. I raised the arm for him to see. The man's eyes went wide.
You're infected,
he said. A lot of us are, I said. I nodded towards the sentry. He is too, and all of you are in danger.
What are you talking about?
The goddess wants you. If all of you people don't get out of here now, you're dead. He shook his head.
You're crazy. Just stay away from me and my family.
I walked past him and strode over to the others. A few of the people trying to sleep were looking up at me. You all have to get out of here, I said in my best CEO's voice. The thing that made me sick is here and it's coming. I've seen it up in Auburn. It's killed hundreds of people and will only kill more. Shut up, said someone sacked out on the carpet. Jeez.
Knock it off,
the big guy said. He had followed along behind me. I put my hand near one of the lanterns to better reveal the details. I can hear the other sick people. They know you're here. The kid at the door with the rifle is one of them. If you don't go, you're all going to get murdered. You have to listen to me. The CEO had yielded the floor to the whiny teenager. I didn't have the strength to shout, and I couldn't find the words. How do you warn people about a monster they haven't seen? How nuts did I sound? The big guy got close, and in a low voice that dripped with threat said,
Listen, you're going to get some of the kids here stirred up. You either pipe down or take a walk outside.
He didn't have to put his hand to his gun. This guy was used to people listening to him. But he didn't deserve to die. Neither did his 2 kids or wife. All 3 were wrapped in blankets and looking to him to do the talking, and Dad was keeping the crazy girl in check. Pulling anyone out of here wasn't going to work. Look, I said, trying to sound as reasonable as possible. Come with me out to the RV outside. Have you seen the driver? I gestured with my icky hand. He has this stuff all over him.
I'm not going outside with you,
the big guy said. No fear, unimpressed, just very irritated. He clearly hadn't seen the man in the RV. I searched the other faces. They were losing interest in me. It was late. People had been sleeping. I considered the gun on the man's hip. The murmuring voices in my head were so loud I thought I was actually hearing them. But no one else did. I looked back at the sentry. He was smiling, nodding, and scratching the back of his neck. They're coming, I said softly. I'm sorry.
Who's coming?
The big guy asked. Deanne, Mindy called from behind me. The big guy looked over my shoulder. The words had been real. She waved me over. Her gestures were slow and jerky like she had been drinking. She and Bethany stood just past the end of the concession stand by the exits to some of the theater auditoriums. I heard scratching at the door closest to them. "Mindy, come here," I said. She shook her head and looked up at Bethany. "Please, come on. We can get out of here. There might be a way to feel better." "I feel fine," she said. The door thumped. I heard whispers, a laugh, and someone sobbing. I ran to her and took her by the arm. Bethany smacked me in the chest with the heel of her hand. It knocked me down. She came forward towards me, but Mindy held her back. Their hands were linked by threads of skin. "No!" I screamed. "We can go, all of us. We don't have to die. It won't get us if you follow me." Bethany smirked.
"We aren't becoming it. It's becoming us."
She said this with perfect clarity, as even though the growth had fixed itself on all parts of her face like a second skin, her mouth was now unobstructed. Her eye burned with an intensity I had never seen in her. "Beth, are you still in there?" I asked. Now not just the closet door, but all 5 of them thumped. I heard a murmur rise from the people in the lobby. Some of the ones who had been sleeping were up out of their sleeping bags and backing away.
"You wonder why we saw so few people in town?" Bethany asked. "They were here."
The doors all opened. A tide of rolling limbs, all bound together by ribbons of infection, burst out of the doorways. Each grotesque tendril pushed forward past me and went straight towards those sheltering in the lobby. Some people instantly got up and ran. Others were frozen with fear. Then 3 more doors on the opposite wall opened. A second mass of skin and body parts flooded out. The people in the lobby didn't stand a chance. They were grabbed, beaten down, crushed, overwhelmed. Soon they were wailing parts of the amalgamation. They didn't die quickly. They didn't die at all. Mindy was hyperventilating. She coughed and sobbed. Bethany appeared not to notice. She stood with her eyes closed and her lips moving. More voices, more screams. I couldn't tell what I was hearing and what was in my head. The tendrils from the theaters appeared to have no end. There was more of each creature inside. Or maybe it all was one, many times larger than Officer Byrd at the library. But somehow Bethany was outside of it, yet part of it. So were Mindy and I. I couldn't make sense of it, but I could tell I was feeding and growing stronger. "I'm not part of this," I said, repeating the words in my head. I felt myself slipping. If I stayed there, I would no longer be me. I turned to face Bethany and Mindy. With my swollen hand, I smashed the link between them. The skin chain tore away. Both girls screamed in pain, their voices joining those filling the theater lobby. The giant limbs weren't phased. Some held their victims down, the skin rippling and spreading over the hapless refugees, merging with them. Others dragged their prey back through the dark doorways, the segmented giant hands clutching 2 or 3 people at a time, all helpless to resist. I pulled Mindy after me. We dodged around one hand, which held the big guy by the head. He lay on the floor, his legs spasming. His family was caught in the embrace of another arm that had come from behind. This one had emerged from a back room with swinging doors, now lodged open by a melted mass of uniformed mall security that formed a single body. Multiple vestigial arms sprouting from the tattered remains of their uniforms. Mindy obediently ran along as I led her, but she was no help. When I stepped around a thrashing boy being attacked while stuck in his sleeping bag, she stumbled. I helped her up. "Keep going," I said. "Come on." "But Beth..." "She'll be okay. I'll come back for her. Mindy, move." The sentry stood in our way. His rifle was unslung. He opened his mouth and a dry, wordless noise came out.
"Join us. The goddess is coming, and she wants you, Deanne."
It wasn't his voice. It was Bethany's. She was in control here. All the victims now being consumed were becoming part of her. I could stay too. All I had to do was nothing. It would be as easy as falling off a bike. He pointed the rifle at me. His aim wasn't stable, and he wasn't even looking at me. But if he pulled the trigger, dollars to donuts, he would blow my brains out. "What's your name?" I asked. The words didn't register. Behind us, the screams had been muffled or were now groans and cries of pain. At least one woman was sobbing. The notion that they were all being slowly eaten alive made me shiver. I knew it was exactly what was happening to me with my arm. It would be my fate if I stayed. "Your name," I said. "You from Roseville?" He squinted.
"It's Andy."
"Which school do you go to, Andy?"
"Wood Creek."
The barrel of the rifle moved, but not by much. "I'm a Tiger. Go team. You beat our asses at football. Your mother and father, are they here? Are they at home?"
He shook his head. "My dad lives in Houston. My mom, she's home."
"Mine too. I need to get back to her. Your mom loves you and wants you back. Let me go past and you can come with me. We can always come back later."
"No,"
he said, but the rifle now aimed at the floor. I rushed him. I knew where to put a knee. I'd had practice. He groaned and dropped. I snatched the weapon away from him and got Mindy to follow. We ran out into the night. Once the door swung closed behind us, the nightmare scene was muted, but the night air held its own noises. Voices were rising in the air. I knew it was more of the monstrosities or parts of the same one. Some of the ringing cries came from around the mall parking lot, while others answered from the streets beyond. "We have to go back," Mindy said with a distinct whine. I led her along as fast as I could. We cut between cars, avoiding the RV and anywhere else we might be jumped. I could tell I was getting weaker. Each step felt heavy. Whatever the brewing abomination inside the mall was doing, whether it was Bethany who controlled the mass or something more than her, we couldn't move quickly enough away. Like in the worst of dreams, the air was thick, and my feet had weights on them. It almost felt like we were moving backwards. Then I saw the blue light on the horizon. Was it brighter than before? "That's it," I said. "That's where we're going. It's not that far. Mindy, help me. Run. We can make it." She gazed at me, her large eyes brimming with tears. "Okay." It wasn't much, but it was enough. Knowing she didn't want it all to end helped me move forward. Then I heard it move. In front of us, a shadow the size of a semi-truck rose up.
"Inmates,"
Officer Bird said.
"Time to come back home."
Chapter 22. Envoy. Officer Bird rose up into the air, supported by a broad pillar of bodies beneath him, but the features of the others who had become part of him were less distinct. I saw almost no vestigial limbs. He had 2 long arms and multiple legs supporting him. He looked like a bloated centaur with the body of a termite queen. He had survived the locals' counterattack in Auburn, and all the bullets and shotgun shells fired into him had done nothing. I had seen him split in 2, dividing like a cell when he enveloped the library. The rifle in my hand felt useless. "The goddess needs us!" I shouted. He rolled forward. I heard the snap of branches as he moved across a row of bushes lining the edge of the mall's property. I stepped back. "We're on a mission," I said, a tremor in my voice. "We need to go past. She's relying on us and she'll be mad if you don't get out of the way." He made a long sound like a moan. Did it hurt to be changed like that? He moved to the closest cars and pushed between and over them.
"Evading a law enforcement officer,"
he purred.
"Come to me and all will be forgiven. I'll wipe your record clean."
I shook my head. "You don't get to have us." We ran. I ditched the rifle. Officer Bird roared. He surged after us. Navigating the parking lot, I saw several bicycles and a row of set-up tents and other pieces of camping equipment. More displaced people had come here seeking shelter than I'd imagined. They had gone inside or had been taken. So many. I could hear him crashing through the tents behind us as we kept running. We made it to the street and crossed over to a gas station. A couple of cars were still parked at the pumps. One was the Travelall. 2 of its doors were open, but I didn't see anyone inside or around. There wouldn't be time to get in to look for keys. And if Billy and his carjacker punk friends were here, then they had run out of gas and were useless to me. A woman came out of the mini-mart. She carried a tiny mop of a dog in her arms. When she saw me, she was startled and drew back. Then she screamed. "Get back inside!" I shouted at her as I pushed past her into the store. A half-dozen others were huddled between racks of magazines, motor oil, and snacks. Mindy and I ran towards the back. People yelled as I stepped on someone and knocked a couple of others out of the way. Officer Bird smashed into the woman still standing out front and crashed into the door. The glass exploded in. Everyone was screaming now as they saw the horror I had brought to their shelter. There was no time to tell them to run. My lungs burned from exhaustion. Officer Bird boomed a loud whoop, as if catching the market full of people was a victory. I ran past 2 bathroom doors down a dark rear hallway that reeked with the stench of urine. I slammed into a back emergency exit. It only opened a few inches. Mindy moaned. "Help me push," I said. We pushed. The door didn't budge. Something was blocking it from the other side. A few other people retreated our way, pushing and clawing at me. We were being smashed against the door. They were shouting. I couldn't catch my breath. Mindy slipped from my grip and crawled past beneath my legs. She squeezed outside, but the others had me pinned. The racket coming from the front of the market sounded like everything was being destroyed. Display cases, counters, and human bones all gave way to Officer Bird as he pushed his way through the front. "Back up," I gasped. "You're crushing me." The pressure against me only increased as others crowded into the hall. They were in a panic and I was wedged in tight. I understood how they felt. Their emergency up until that point had been an inconvenience. Now it was a matter of survival. I bit a hand that had been pressing against my cheek. A woman shrieked and jerked. It gave me enough wiggle room to get low below the fanny bar. There was just enough space to get my head between the door and the metal door frame. Mindy grabbed me by the ears and hair and jacket and finally caught my armpit. With a yank, my shoulders came through and the rest soon followed. Mindy started running. "Wait!" I called. The woman I had bitten was following me out. A dumpster had been placed by the fire exit. It was full of trash and had no wheels. No wonder we hadn't been able to budge it. I took the woman's arm and pulled. Suddenly something seized her from the other side. Long fingers ran up her body and wrapped around her shoulders and neck. She was shaking her head furiously, but I could do nothing but let her go. She vanished through the space in the doorway. I took a step back. Officer Bird's face pressed into the doorway. He smiled. Behind him, the screams continued. The look on his face was one of sheer satisfaction. I had brought him here, and now he was feeding. I kicked the door into his head several times until it closed. I heard him laughing. My stomach squeezed. The part of him that was part of me made me want to jump in a fire. It was too much. Mindy tugged at me. I knew we had to keep going, but my tank was empty. The sounds from inside went quiet, and I expected at any moment Officer Bird would squeeze through the door and around the front. I wanted it all to end. Fighting would delay the inevitable. We were going to be like him, or like whatever new thing Bethany had become. This was the goddess in action. Better to be consumed than twisted into something that fed on others. "I can't," I said. Mindy pinched my ear. "Stop it." She did it again. I slapped her away. "Don't you see?" I asked. "I shouldn't have taken you away. If we had stayed with Beth, it would all be quiet now." "I hear the voices too," Mindy said. "But you're the only one that listens to mine." I looked at her for a moment, and then nodded. We headed towards the blue light. The sensation of running through a dream intensified as we made it to the street where the blue light shined. It had only grown larger, and the light now radiated through multiple buildings and down several side streets. The pain of getting closer to the light built in my head. Mindy winced, and we helped each other along until we took cover behind a parked car so we could rest. I gripped her shoulder. It could kill us. It hurts. A lot. She nodded. We rose and walked down the street together. I kept my eyes shielded and looked at the asphalt so I wouldn't trip. I caught a glimpse of the tall shape I had seen before, but it moved out of sight. I made out other people nearby, standing or sitting, some watching the light. More of the dead bats lay about. Their tiny bodies smoldered. Good. The shape glided back into view and drew close. We stopped. He stood tall before us, and I knew then he was the source of the most light. I recalled the faces of those who saw and prayed to the goddess and had never thought I would share their awe. But I didn't bow or weep. If this was an invader from another world, then I was going to face him while standing. All I could think of was that I should have at least brushed my hair, as it was a tangled mess hanging around my face. As he waited, I realized he didn't have any arms or legs. He was like a giant shard of glass wrapped in a robe. He shined so bright, reflecting the lights of the crystals.
Follow.
Someone without a head and face doesn't exactly turn around. He changed direction and glided over to the closest crystal. A young girl sat in front of it. I saw light shining from her face where it appeared some of her skin was missing. I could see exposed bone under her cheek. Nearby, a young man stood and watched. He held a pistol at his side and chewed on his thumbnail. "Grant?" I said. He squinted. "Is this Paige?" He didn't answer. The girl looked up at me. There was something about how the light came through her. She was in no pain. Her skin was free of the infection. The shape above me waited. My own hand trembled as I reached forward towards the crystal. I hesitated. The pain radiating through me was impossible to ignore. I didn't think I could endure another minute, but I looked up at the figure towering above me. "Who are you?"
Magus. If it's your will to survive, then I can help.
"At what cost?" When there came no answer, I added, "There's always been a cost."
The Alpha Guardian will never accept you again. You will never bear the Hive's mark on your body. But the disease within you will be removed. You will live.
"But who are you? You came here just to help us with this?" The ache in my arm wasn't letting up. My whole body was trembling.
I served the Hive, but no longer. I live but to destroy all that was once the Hive and its guardians.
This Hive and these guardians. Is that the infection? Is that the goddess?
There will be more time for information later.
I couldn't be bothered with diplomacy. "Tell me now." I couldn't tell if he had heard me. Even the notion that the giant chunk of glass floating in the air next to me was a male was silly. The world was still thick around me. Dreamlike. "Deanne," Mindy said. Her presence snapped me out of my stupor. She too was hanging tough, and she hadn't come forward, but I kept staring up at the alien. If this was my final moment, so be it. Trading one infection for another sounded like a crappy deal. "What do you want from us?" I asked.
Yours is not the first world to fall to the Hive. It has consumed many before, but some unknown affliction struck it when traveling to your world, and the Hive's central consciousness has perished. Some of its slaves have survived, myself among them. A few finished the journey to your world and used the Hive's biological matter to continue in a mindless harvest.
"I thought you said the Hive was dead."
Yes, but each particle of the Hive continues to live. The Minders have served for so long they know little else but to continue in their purpose.
Sounds like they've gone crazy. When Magus didn't reply, I added, "So why you? What do you stand to gain from all this?"
I decided to continue because of what they took from my world. They will suffer.
So, revenge. Again, Magus said nothing. Perhaps he didn't waste his breath on answering obvious questions. Grant had come forward and he scooped Paige up into his arms. Something about how natural and normal it looked struck a nerve. These two weren't charmed or bamboozled or under any spell. This was a sick girl who had gotten better, even though much of the skin on her face was now gone. Mindy had come up next to me. She was reaching forward to touch the crystal. "Wait," I said. "Me first, just in case." I put my hand into the light. Chapter 23. Something borrowed, something blue. You know that pain when it feels like every nerve in your body is being flayed by a potato peeler and then some busybody sprinkles lemon juice over you? Touching the light was like that, but worse. The idea I might pass out was a happy thought, but it didn't happen. At least it was quiet. I couldn't breathe enough to scream. Light was my new reality. I smelled my own flesh roasting. Everything else fell to the periphery. The alien, Mindy, the other people watching nearby. If this lasted for minutes or a day, I didn't know. I heard myself gasping. I was on the ground. The street was cold. I see nothing but spots from having stared at the crystal. A hand held mine and squeezed. "Mama," I whispered. "Mama, Mama." I kept repeating it. It comforted me more than any one word ever has. I felt a chasm around me and I knew I would fall in if I moved. The space was the silence in my head, as I heard no voice of a goddess or anyone else. But the silence was itchy, like a phantom limb. The connection was severed, but part of me missed it. "You're going to be okay." It was Paige. The girl helped me sit up. I made it halfway, leaning on her. She showed surprising strength as she supported me. I looked around me, trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't. I didn't see Mindy or the alien. Paige's brother Grant was sitting on a step nearby, his head nodded forward, appearing to be asleep. The crystals around us still glowed. Above, the night was not as dark as it had been before, and I could see high clouds turning white. I pushed myself up and propped my body against a large planter. The beautiful little girl's scarred face was creased with concern for me. Time to face the music. I looked down at my arm. It wasn't there. I nodded as if listening to a judge handing a sentence down to me. With my left hand, I touched my face where the infection had also taken hold. I felt scarred depressions along both cheeks as if the skin had been torn off. My fingers were touching exposed muscle, but there was no pain. I examined the remains of my right arm, expecting to see blood or pus, but there wasn't any. The skin was tightly fused just above the elbow. I knew I was in shock. The pain would come soon. It was waiting in the wings. It had a way of laying in ambush, and when you least expect it, wham! I stopped messing with it. "Where's Mindy?" The little girl looked at her brother.
"She left a little while ago,"
he said, opening his eyes. "Left? What do you mean? Where did she go?"
"I have no idea. I thought maybe she was going to look for some food or something. She headed down the street."
He pointed the way we came. I should have stayed seated. I fell the first time I got up, but I managed to stand before Paige could help me. I made it to a parked car. The vehicle looked like parts of it were missing. I didn't have time to make sense of it. Walking much further would be impossible. I didn't see Mindy. Grant caught up with me.
"You look like you're about to keel over."
"I need to find my friend."
"What you need to do is sit down. You were almost dead. I have no idea what's going on out there, but that's the only thing keeping these flying things away from us." He pointed to the crystal. It still burned bright. I walked towards it. A few people were standing nearby, transfixed. Had we traded one master for another? How much of anything the alien said was actually true? Was any of this real? I didn't see Magus anywhere, but I also didn't feel him or sense him or hear his voice. I let out a small laugh. My brain felt clean.
There's no other way to describe it. I returned to the crystal. In Star Trek, dilithium crystals powered spaceships. Crystals made up the Skrith in Larry Niven's Ringworld, didn't they? It had been so long since I had read those books. But spaceships and aliens and otherworldly construction materials were the stuff of fiction. Or at least they had been until the goddess showed up. Now all bets were off. I put my hand to the crystal. Even before I made contact, it was like licking a battery. Then I touched it. It felt cool, like a stone countertop. What did I know about what happened to me? My infection was gone. It had killed it or cured me. Also, I didn't bleed out. But this wasn't some divine miracle, as I had lost my arm where the worst of the infection had resided. A loving God would have made me whole. This meant the crystal was some kind of machine, an appliance, a piece of technology that I was unfamiliar with. The goddess was no god, and neither was the tall alien named Magus. They were visitors who had their own way of communicating with us. Both were here for a purpose. The goddess. Magus had called her a guardian. Her purpose was obvious enough, to assimilate or gobble everyone up with her infection. And there were others that Magus had referred to as minders. I pulled my hand away. The words came by rote. "Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change," I whispered. "The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." I had left the God part out. I had said the words often enough, not really meaning them when contemplating my pill use. The group sessions had focused on us being powerless over the drug and needing to delegate the healing to our higher authority. So what could Magus's machine do to help me now? I leaned forward and embraced it. Someone close by said, "What's she doing?" I clamped my eyes shut. The crystal in my arms was cool, then got colder. I concentrated. If it worked by some force of will, I would find the right mental switch, or maybe suffer a stroke. Nothing happened. I thought of all the magic words I had learned over the years, but none of them were adequate, so I didn't say them out loud. Magus had come here from another world or dimension, and the crystal was part of it, or him, and I wanted it. I tightened my embrace and rested my face against the smooth surface. Suddenly, I felt fire on my cheeks and the stump of my arm. I tried to push away, but I was stuck. My skin seared. I screamed. It was the burning of the infection all over again, or so I thought. The crystal was giving it all back to me because of my doubt. I couldn't just accept what had been done to save me. Now I was to pay the price. I would know weeping and the gnashing of teeth as I was cast out into the darkness. Then the infection would swallow me up, and I would be gone forever. It released me. I fell back as if we had been attached by some magnetic force that had suddenly been switched off. Magus stood above me. "I'm sorry," I said. The pain was fading slowly.
"It was not time for that yet,"
Magus said.
"That was foolish."
I got myself to sit up. A sensation ran down the shoulder towards my missing arm. It itched and felt like ice. Then I saw something there below the elbow. There was a pale blue formation that looked like a rod of metal where my infected arm and hand had been. It was thin, but even as I watched, I could see it was growing. "What's happening to me?"
"It's what you requested."
"I didn't ask for anything. What is it doing?"
"Replacing the damaged tissue with a substance suitable for sustaining you. Remain calm."
I fought the urge to swat at my growing limb. It wasn't bone or flesh that was generating. My fingers touched the damaged portion of my face. I felt something hard and tough where my cheek skin had been flayed away. Magus just floated there. No one else dared get close. "I get my hand back?" I asked. Whatever was growing had slowed, but the rod structure was thickening as I watched.
"As you desired,"
Magus said.
"Much as removing the hive infection. To force this on you would have been unconscionable."
"But you could cure more people. The bats, They can't even get close to your crystal here without dying." He didn't say anything. "My friend Mindy. Did she also get cured of the infection? Did you see where she went?" I just asked an alien without eyes which way did they go.
First, I have questions. I have not given instructions to anyone on accessing restoration. I still do not know enough of your race to proceed. It could do irreparable harm to your nervous system and microbiome. I am surprised you were able to activate the process. Please tell me how.
I don't know. I need to find Mindy. I had been hoping for backup, but Magus remained floating by the crystal. Stupid alien. Doubt crept into my mind as I walked across the dried-up carcasses of what had once been the bats. They crumpled under my feet as if they had turned to ash, but I felt jazzed up, no longer at the point of collapse. I had to bring Mindy back so she could share my experience. Even at the dawn hour, the city around me felt foreign in its silence. The handful of vehicles stalled in the road, lending it the air of being abandoned. Who was left that hadn't been consumed? So few huddled around Magus's machine. Too many dark buildings looked down at me as I navigated the center of the street. Officer Bird was still out there, as was Bethany, and now we shared no connection. I would be just another piece of meat to them. The ones in the mall had been taken so quickly. Each doorway was a potential trap. So how far had Mindy made it? I saw a small beehive growing inside a bird cage in the front seat of a stalled Kia minivan. I was out of range of Magus's crystal. All my instincts told me to turn around and go back. But even if Mindy had returned to the mall, I knew I would follow. If there was a chance she was still alive, I would try to bring her back. I saw flying things in the sky. Bats. A swarm of them circled around the Chili's restaurant near the highway. I took to the darker side of the street to get closer, even though I was pretty sure the creatures had no eyes that I had seen. I saw motion through the windows. There were people inside. Then I heard a baby cry. I thought it might be the same one we had heard when leaving the highway the previous evening. Someone inside started shooting. I ducked. People started to scream. Then I heard the roar. I couldn't see anything near the side of the restaurant that faced me. I ran to the front entrance, heedless of the bats flying above me. It was chaos inside. Another roar came from the kitchen. I saw people frantically grabbing for makeshift weapons and fighting whatever was coming into the building from the back entrance. Shouts for help mixed with screams of pain. A bat flew down towards me, but I got the door closed in time. It smacked against the glass. Mindy was inside. She was huddled with a small group of people keeping their heads down next to a corner booth. One was a mother with a baby clutched in her arms. A few windows had been barricaded, but whatever partial preparation had been done would be useless. I ran to Mindy. "We have to leave." I could tell she knew I was right, but it was clear she didn't want to abandon them. The mother with the baby wasn't much older than me. 2 preteen girls were with her too, their eyes wide with terror. The mother didn't want to get up, and the girls clung to each other and likewise refused to move. I grabbed the mother by the arm. "The thing coming in through the back will break in here and eat you if you don't get up now." With Mindy's help, she rose and the girls followed. They began blubbering names, maybe people who were vainly fighting the abomination in the kitchen. I hesitated when I saw a cluster of bats clinging to the front door. I grabbed the stand by the front that held a "Please wait to be seated" sign. It was awkward with one hand, but there weren't any other choices. "Don't stop," I said as I charged forward. I pushed one of the doors open with my shoulder and drove the base of the sign down on a bat. 3 of them were now pinned against the outside wall, but they were pushing at me with surprising strength. Another bat flew at my face. I ducked and swung. The stand was a horrible weapon, and it threw me off balance. 2 bats creeping along the ground sprang at me, and Mindy shouted my name as she ran past with the girls. I felt stings on my neck and my leg as the creatures grabbed hold. I kicked at one but couldn't dislodge it. The skin tingled, and I felt a numbness spread up my neck and down my chest from where one of the bats began to dig in. It was poisoning me. The taste of metal filled my mouth. This wasn't the goddess accepting me into her bosom. It was me dying. With the new appendage on my right hand, I stabbed the thing on my neck. It burst like a balloon. Warm sludge splattered onto my face. I didn't hesitate and quickly jabbed the bat on my leg. It popped. Mindy helped me up. My leg tingled with pins and needles, and I had to hobble along with her. The girls wailed as their mother pushed them along. "It'll be okay. It'll be okay," she kept repeating, even as tears poured down her face. The baby was shrieking. The sounds from inside the restaurant only grew until I heard the abomination utter a loud cry. Then it was silent. "That way," Mindy said, and the mother got the rest of them moving down the street. "How did you do that?" Mindy asked as we ran. "I don't know." By all logic, my new hand should have been a raw nerve. The itchy sensation was replaced with a fire that coursed through my bones. It felt good. I wanted more. The swarm of bats found us. They swooped down one at a time, but the creatures were disorganized and easily dodged. I kept the mother and the other girls in front of me. Behind us, a large mass of stitched-together people poured out of the restaurant and paused for a moment as if getting its bearings. Then it followed. It flowed across the asphalt, running over and between vehicles, splitting and reforming like an incoming flood. "Hurry," I said. "Run faster." We were 2 streets away from the restaurant now. Then I heard a roar.
"Inmates."
Officer Bird filled the street before us. He rose up like a wall, the light of the sun shining orange on his mottled skin. I saw new limbs of maybe a dozen men, women, and children, all fresh prey he had taken.
"I thought I lost you. Won't you join me?"
I turned. The mass of infection closing in behind us was coming fast. Officer Bird wasn't moving. His flanks spread to either side of the streets and into the building. Running to either side would be a trap. "Stop!" I shouted to the girls. "Back this way. Get close to me." As I gathered Mindy, the mother, and the 2 girls, Officer Bird started laughing. We moved as one back towards the abomination from the restaurant. My arm felt puny against the thing, a knife against an avalanche. It rose high and reached to the right and the left of us. We were surrounded. Then it dropped down on us. With a scream, I thrust my new hand forward. A howl split the air. The parts of the creature that touched me flew apart like water. I swung my arm in a wide arc and felt a shout of rage escape my lips. The thing kept screaming. I saw faces of those it had consumed twisted in agony. Everywhere my new limb made contact, it died and broke to pieces. I had moved away from Mindy. She kept a firm hand on the girls, but the abomination's hands and tendrils caught hold of them. I leaped back, pausing to cut something grabbing at my foot, and chopped the girls free. The abomination shrieked in pain as it recoiled and drew itself together. I had done damage, but there was so much more of it. It charged. I was sweating and exhausted. I had nothing left and I swung feebly at the creature. But it moved slower now, a shudder running through its massive form. "I beat you," I whispered. Then from behind came the louder roar of Officer Bird. Part of him dropped down on top of the abomination in front of me like the arm of a titan. For a moment it was all a knot of roiling skin. But soon they were one. Officer Bird let out a loud, satisfied sigh. I had beaten the one creature only to have Officer Bird grow stronger off of it. I couldn't see the sun anymore. I stopped cutting as the swirl turned around us. We were in the eye of a rising hurricane. Words failed me. I looked at Mindy. She was shielding one of the young girls from seeing the inevitable. The air hummed, and I felt the hair on my arms rise. Perhaps this was the moment when my nothing life would flash before me. There was little to see. The blaze of light was instant, like a camera flash. It was followed by a shock that knocked me off my feet. The light increased, burned brighter, and heat blasted my face. I raised my left hand to shield my eyes. Officer Bird screamed in pain. A second shockwave burst his entire mass into the sky in a million directions. The wind swirled around us. A shard stood before me like the one I had grasped. Magus hovered there above it. Mindy and the others were huddled tight as if weathering a gale. I straightened up and faced Magus. I tried to ignore the giblets raining from the sky. I pushed at a few chunks of flesh littering the street around me with my foot. They were lifeless. None of the parts moved. You killed him.
Indeed.
I touched the crystal pillar. It didn't do anything. I tapped it with the tip of my new appendage. Nothing. By the power of Grayskull. Maybe that would happen later. I sighed. I felt punchy. So far past tired, I was coming around to pass it up a second time. As long as we stay here, it's safe, I said. Magus didn't comment. Perhaps it wasn't a question that needed answering. Mindy was drawing away from the pillar. She had let go of the girls who now were looking at me and Magus with obvious apprehension. In the light, now I could see that both of Mindy's arms were now like mine had been, swollen and overgrown with infection. So she hadn't touched the crystal. The patches on her face had also spread. If she'd made skin contact with the girls, they too would be infected. I held my hand out to Mindy. You're sick, I said. This will make you better. She looked down the street as if contemplating fleeing. She was shivering. Mindy, it's okay. But you have to come here. All of you do. To the girls, I added. He won't hurt you. He's here to help us. You were changed, Mindy said. I nodded. After the cure, yes. I touched it a second time. My hand was completely gone. I won't lie and say it didn't hurt, but I'm still me. It isn't like the infection. You have to believe me. She stepped closer. I saw lingering fear in her eyes as she looked at my new hand and studied my face. I grabbed her and pulled her forward.
No.
Magus's single word resonated in my gut. It was the loudest he had spoken.
It must be her choice.
I released her hand and stepped out of the way. It'll be okay, I said. I promise. What about Beth? If we can find her and bring her here, then maybe there's hope for her too. But for now, we have a safe place and we have to save ourselves. She began to shake her head. Her eyes wouldn't meet mine. When I saw you were better, I thought I could make it back to Beth. She called me and I knew we could return together. Then I heard the baby crying inside the restaurant and wanted to save them. That way Beth wouldn't grab them. She took so many. She's so hungry. I helped bring them to her in the theater. Her voice got small. I lied and told people it would be okay. You weren't yourself then, I said gently. It starts on your skin and takes over your mind. Officer Bird was gone long before he started chasing us. Officer Taylor had become part of him. She was the one who called us inmates. All that was left was the infection controlling him. Or maybe the goddess. That won't happen to anyone else if we do something about it. Do what? We'll fight. We'll see if we can save Beth. You rescued these people here, and that's something. She didn't seem totally convinced, but then she came forward and reached out to touch the crystal. Mindy's face looked much like Paige's. Touching the crystal had burned away the infection and she had passed out. With the two young girls helping, I got her up with her arm around my shoulder and took her down to a coffee shop, where I plopped her into a lounge chair. As the girls got her comfortable, I went to look back out through the window. Magus remained floating by the new crystal. Smaller glowing points of light lined the street around him that hadn't been there before. The remains of Officer Bird smoldered. I walked outside and approached the alien. I guess I owe you a thank you, I said. You saved my life and my friends. But that doesn't mean we serve you. We made no agreements. We're not in your debt. You're a guest here. He didn't respond. I got closer and waved my hand at him.
More will come. I must prepare.
What do you mean, more? We're going to be attacked?
Yes. I will enter a maker's trance and ready defenses.
I waited for more, but none came. Hello? Magus, what does that mean? When are they coming? I reached up and was just able to touch him. He was slightly warm and smooth, like a window in sunlight. Are you in there? I started to worry. Had he been injured in the fight? Somehow I knew he still lived. He had spoken and didn't sound like he was in distress. But he was an alien, and what did I know? I sat down at a nearby bus stop and waited. The sun broke over the horizon, shining between the nearest buildings. The pinpricks of light glowing on the asphalt got brighter. Each one was growing into another crystal. I saw movement from down the street. It was coming. More was coming. And now with Magus asleep, it would catch us. Officer Bird was gone, but Bethany and maybe a dozen others like her might be heading this way. But instead, I saw a group of people, 5 of them hurrying in our direction. They were helping an older man along. I got up and went to help. He had an arm in a sling and was having trouble walking. His face and hands were covered with infection. The others were also sick. They looked at me and my new arm. Then they looked up at Magus. "It's okay," I said. "Come with me. We can help." Epilogue. Bethany Ann Wilkins ran her fingers across her face. The skin was smooth and no longer felt like it burned. She took a moment to look down at her hands. They too showed no trace of wasting skin. All of her fingers worked. Nothing itched. She clenched both hands and flexed them. She felt wired, like she had downed coffee, but there was more there. She didn't understand, but she wanted to. "I'm alive. I feel so strong, almost like I could fly." "Yes, my child," the goddess said. She placed an emerald hand on the girl's shoulder. "You are the strongest I have found. So many were not." The hand caressed the back of Bethany's head. Her touch charged Bethany, as if the woman were a battery with unlimited power. It was all there for her to take if she could handle it. She thought she could. After the last feeding, she felt like she could do anything. They were standing on top of the hospital parking garage, which looked out towards the city where some of the goddess's creations had just perished. Bethany had a connection with the creatures and had felt a sharp prick when they had died. Mindy had been there, as had Deanne. Neither now had a connection with the goddess. Bethany felt a moment of sorrow. Mindy had been special, but no longer. There were so many who had been brought into the fold, and Bethany had a personal relationship with all that had been taken at the theater. They were part of her now. The goddess was the one they would serve, but they were hers to command. Even now, the mass broiled underneath her, filling the lower levels of the parking garage, a sea of flesh that had once been human but was now so much more. She felt what they had felt and saw what they saw. She had sent up flying scouts in all directions. There was so much more to take. She would grow stronger still, and all in the service of her. It was too bad about Mindy, though. "What about the Minder?" Bethany asked. The goddess had told her about him. He wasn't the only one who had come with her from the other world, but he was the only one the goddess cared about. Every time Bethany had sent a flyer close to where the crystals were, it had been snuffed out. She wasn't confident enough to send out anything larger. She needed to practice. But she could sense the Minder the goddess called Magus, and he was getting stronger. "We should go after him now. I have a hard time seeing what he's doing, but he dares take a stand against you, and he draws more to himself." "There are more with us," the goddess said. Bethany wanted to know more, but dared not ask for risk of giving offense. "You have questions, child, and I will answer. Yes, I am weakened. I have traveled so far for so long.
But he is weak too, and he stands alone. For you to go and fight him without me would mean your death. So be patient. We will wait until we are ready, and then Magus will be no more. Then you, child, will ascend and know power. There will be nothing to stop us. I have much to teach you. Soon you will have all you desire, and one day you will be a queen of your world with nothing to stand in your way.
Bethany liked the sound of that. She never wanted the moment to end. But there was work. The city was large and there was hunting to be done. The voices from below were distracting her. Men, women, children, all part of her now, yet some still cried for relief or mercy. With a thought, Bethany silenced them, but the goddess had nothing more to say. With the rising of the sun, she was gone, leaving Bethany to watch the city below and to plan and to gather. A war was coming. This has been Refuge, The Minder's War Book 1. Written by Gerhard Gehrke, narrated by Keira Grace. Copyright 2018 by Gerhard Gehrke. Production copyright 2021 by Gerhard Gehrke.